Alright, so today is Saturday, December 22nd, 2018, and I'm standing here on Toronto Island, and in this video I'm going to give you a tour of Wards Island and Algonquin Island from the seat of my recumbent bike. So from the ferry docks I'm going to head over in the west direction, over towards Algonquin Island first, and we'll just do a little bit of a tour through the streets of Algonquin Island. The reason I've decided to start over here as opposed to Wards Island is because on the ferry that I took over to get here on Toronto Island, there was a very large group of people. There seemed to be a group that was maybe some tourists who were visiting Toronto, and another group who looked like hikers. And I noticed that one of the large groups headed over towards Wards Island, so I figured I'd start in an area where they weren't, just so we could get sort of the experience of Toronto Island that's not buzzing with tourists. Toronto Island in the winter is a very different place than in the summer. When I talk about buzzing with tourists, that is a relative term, because in the summer there certainly are a whole lot more of these tourists coming to enjoy the island. So to get to Algonquin Island, from the main part of the island here, you have to go over this wooden pedestrian, bridge. I guess it's not just for pedestrians. There are vehicles that do cross over it. Only service vehicles, of course. For instance, the garbage trucks that serve the island, they would cross over here. And as we're going across, we are crossing over a little water body, which is called the lagoon, which is a little bit of water that goes between this island and the Wards Island where we just came from. So this part where I'm on right now is called Omaha Street. All of the places where houses are on the island do have actual street names, but they're much more like, sidewalks in the actual streets. And then I'm going to turn left onto Nottawa Avenue here. So between these houses here on Algonquin Island and the others that we'll be seeing later on Wards Island, there's apparently about 260 of these houses. And I say houses because although they look like cottages, people actually live in these places year-round. They really are truly houses, and I think there actually is some kind of a rule for you to be able to hold a lease for one of these houses. You actually have to make it your permanent residence. And so on Toronto Island, there's apparently about 750 people that live here, and they live here year-round. And the reason I decided to film this video in December, or one of the reasons I decided to film this video today, was because I thought that being that today is the 22nd of December, and Christmas is in 3 days from now, I thought that a lot of the houses would be really dressed up for Christmas, but from what I'm seeing so far, I'm not really seeing too many Christmas decorations here. I can definitely see Christmas trees sort of inside the houses, but I haven't actually seen any Christmas lights yet. So I'm just going to turn left here now. That was Seneca Avenue you're riding on, and now we're on to Ojibwe Avenue. And also one of the reasons I came here sort of later in the day, right now it's almost 4 o'clock, is because I figured I want to be here when it gets dark so I can see the Christmas lights. So Toronto Island is Toronto Islands, I guess they're called, are a cluster of islands that's really just a sandbar of sorts that's situated not very far at all off of the shoreline of Toronto. And to get here, you take a ferry boat, which takes about less than 50 minutes each way. It's just a passenger ferry. There are no vehicles on the island aside from service vehicles, like garbage trucks and snow plows and, things like that. So now I'm back to my bridge where I came from on Omaha. So I'm going to make a right turn and we'll head over again on Omaha in the other direction. And I'm just kind of zigzagging around all these houses just because it's interesting to see them. The lagoon over here on the left, right now you'll see that there's, you probably can't really see it at the moment, but there's not really there's no boats there, but in the summer that's just filled with boats all the way along. So yeah, not seeing any Christmas lights on the outside or any major decorations. I just kind of thought that would, I just kind of expected that I would see those sorts of things because of, how the little island houses or cottages are just, very cute and small and pretty. I just expected they would have Christmas lights for some reason. Back at Seneca, this road we were on was called Oneida Avenue. So I'll turn left and we'll continue our way through here. So this, of course, right now I'm on the side of the Algonquin Island. That's not the lagoon side. This is the side where, you look right across to the Toronto Harbor. Make another left turn from Seneca onto Dakota. I've never heard many of these words said out loud before, so I'm not entirely sure if I'm pronouncing them correctly. So yeah, Toronto Island is a very unique place. It's situated very close to the downtown where there's enormous skyscrapers, but the way of life over here is very simple. And, there's no people that live here don't have cars. And, they are isolated from the mainland other than taking that ferry or some other kind of boat. They have their own boat. So I've always been kind of fascinated by the island, and I'd only ever really visited maybe once or twice a year, and always in the summer. And every time I'd always visited Toronto Island, I'd always say, I should go here more often. And then, another year would come around and I'd, visit again. I should really visit here more often. So this at the end of this summer, I said, you know what, I really should visit more often. So I challenged myself to come and visit the island once a month for an entire year. So that's what I'm doing. So this is December now, and I've visited every single month since August was the first month in that string, and I'm going to keep going. And I'm loving it. It's really interesting to see. I have not yet seen the island when it's been under snow, or it's snowed. I'm very much looking forward to that as well. So we're on the very last street of Algonquin at this end over here. You can see straight ahead of us, that's the CN Tower. So you've got, just such an interesting contrast where you've got this little cottage over here that, is one story. It's probably, many decades old and just very cute and small. And then you've got all those enormous skyscrapers straight ahead. Over on the left here is the Montessori School. There's also where the Algonquin Island Association meets there as well. I guess there's a sign for that. So that's, I guess, where the young children that live on the island go to school. There is also a public school as well, where kids up to grade 6 go there, and then for middle school and high school, the kids have to, go to school back on the mainland. That's okay. So yeah, you can see all the houses here have little mailboxes. So from what I understand, everyone that lives here does get mail delivery from Canada Post right to their door, or to their mailbox at least. I imagine it probably takes a bit longer to get here, than if you lived on the mainland. But again, living on the island, people seem to just live a different kind of pace of life. When I was riding over on the ferry with my recumbent bike, of course, as what often happens, someone came up to me and saw my bike and wanted to talk about recumbents with me. And this guy actually owned a couple recumbents. And we were talking about recumbents and then talking about the island. And he actually lives on the island. And so that ferry was full of lots of people who were tourists, but he was actually a local. So it was great to talk to a local and sort of, learn a little bit about it. And I was talking about, the winter on the island and how I was doing my, once a month quest and how I was, looking forward to skiing. And he said, oh, well, bring your skates. If it's not snowy, bring your skates because in the winter. And I said, oh, is there like a skating rink over here you can skate on? He said, oh, well, the lagoons, which is what I'm crossing over right now. This little, very shallow water that's kind of between the different islands. This lagoon system runs, for quite a long distance, almost the entire length of the island. And he said, yeah, you can go skating on the lagoons. They freeze solid and they get nice and, it's a good place to skate. I'm just going to go straight across here, actually. This building on the right here is called the Shaw House, and it was originally the home of the Metro Parks superintendent, but about in the 1990s, it was renovated and converted into a senior's residence. And right here is the boardwalk that runs up along the other side of the island. The boardwalk's also known as Lakeshore Avenue, and at one time it actually stretched all the way from where we are here in Wards Island all the way to the other end of the island at Hamlin's Point, which is quite a long distance away. Last month when I was here, I had this little information pamphlet that I picked up somewhere along the way that had little points marked on the map on the island, and you went to those spots and it had a description about what each thing was. So all of the buildings that are, not private homes, there was like the history of them and how, I'm going to make this up here, but how the fire hall, was moved from one end of the island to another, and then it became the canoe club, and how all these different things were, each building had a history and a story. And unfortunately I did that last month and I don't remember a whole lot of it, so I'd love to be filling this commentary with historical facts that I learned, but a lot of them have escaped me after only just a month, unfortunately. So these are more private homes here, and this is again where a lot of the people that came off the ferry, they went straight in this direction, so I'm imagining there's going to be a lot more pedestrians here. There is a beach here. Maybe I'll just give you a quick shot of the beach. I believe this is the Wards Island beach. It's over here. I guess I'll show you the beach. I actually did post a video on my channel last year in 2017 where I did a full tour of Toronto Islands from one end to the other. There's the beach. No one swimming today, but in the summer this place would absolutely be packed. So yeah, this is the very south end of the island, which means that if you were to go, straight out from here, you'd be heading across to the other side of Lake Ontario. Now, over on the over on the left there is a peninsula which sticks out a long way, which is called the Leslie Street Spit or Tommy Thompson Park, and that is part of the mainland. But it does stick out a long way out, and it's almost like an island on its own. It's a very unique place. I really hope to make a video riding there one day as well. Now this house here we're heading towards, the blue one on the left, it's got some Christmas decorations, so that's nice to see. So yeah, there's just a little strip of couple houses lining this part of the shore here, where all the other ones are kind of more like built into a, sort of a, not a subdivision, but, the lots are all on, straight streets, and they're sort of, packed together into a grid. Now the island used to have a whole lot more houses on it than it does now. Back before the 1950s, there was about 2,000 people who lived here year-round, and as many as about 10,000 who lived here just during the summer months. And they actually, expropriated a lot of, I guess, the land is actually, no one actually owns their own land. It's all leased, land leases. But they, revoked a lot of those leases to build to have the park, which is what most of the island is. It's a park. But yeah, there used to be a lot more houses here in the early days. All right, so I'm at the very end here. Now, the names of the streets on this is Wards Island, by the way, and the names of the streets here are a lot easier because they're numbered streets. So this is First Avenue. And I distinctly remember riding this during my video back in last year, because there's one of the houses has this big boat in their backyard, and it's a very small yard, and most of the yard is taken up by this boat. So now First Street. Now we're on Channel Avenue. So I guess the streets go one way and the avenues go the other. So I'm now on an avenue called Channel Avenue. And I'll just do 3rd Street here. I'll just turn to the right. So I had the privilege of coming over here on a Wednesday. I had a vacation day in the middle of the week, and I decided, to use my November trip to Toronto Island to be that weekday, because I wanted to see, what it was like coming here. And again, in the summer it's packed with tourists. On weekends during the off season, there's still a few tourists that come over, but I figured that on a weekday that it would be, just very quiet, very simple, and you sort of get to see Toronto Island more, in its natural habitat in a way. So I had really had hopes of that. But anyways, there ended up being a big group of hikers that was on that ferry boat coming across too. But I did have the privilege of, while I was here on that Wednesday, of seeing the garbage trucks going around and collecting garbage. And I've never been so excited about garbage trucks in my life. But what was so interesting was because the garbage trucks were Toronto Island sized garbage trucks, meaning that they were, quite small and they have to be able to fit on these small little roads to be able to collect all the garbage. I'm on 4th Street right now. I just realized that the streets don't completely line up. There's a little bit of a jog there coming across 4th. And I'm not really doing this in a very systematic way. I hope the video is not too shaky on these. The roads are basically like sidewalks. They're made of concrete, and there's an expansion joint every 7 or 8 feet or so. Here I'm turning left back on the channel, and I'm going to do 2nd Street because I missed part of that. Actually, all of 2nd Street I guess I missed. I'm sure the garbage trucks know the way to come through these to be able to get all of them. Oh, there's some Christmas lights at the very end there. So one of the other activities that I brought to do today on my trip to Toronto Island was I brought a kite to fly a kite because, it's always windy over here, or not. It's always a lot more windy here than it is back on the mainland. So I figured a kite would be a good activity for today. Of course, I brought lots of extra clothes to wear over top as well because, I want to stay warm. Now, one thing I don't know, and I'm interested in, is whether the houses here have natural gas for heating, which is something that most houses in Canada, at least in urban areas, are heated by natural gas. I guess I could probably figure it out if I wasn't making a video and could actually... Oh, there's a saw gas meter. Yep, they do have natural gas, so that's pretty cool. So basically, you can have a house that's not, you know, this island is not off the grid by any means. But it is still very disconnected from the outside world, but you can still have, you know, a lot of the modern conveniences that you know, would get on a, you know, a regular sort of living situation. There's a baseball diamond and a soccer field right here. Also further over to the left, over there, there is a lawn bowling club and also a community center, not really a community center, I don't know what you'd call it. Sort of a community hub. It's also a restaurant in the summer. There's 2 restaurants here during the summer, but both of them are only... Actually, I think one of them is open some of the time. I can't remember. Alright, so just a little bit more of this. This is 5th Street. I think we've almost seen everything. I can smell a chimney for a house. So they do have natural gas, but some of them, I guess, are heated by wood, or maybe partially heated by wood. I imagine some are also electrically heated, but electric heat is very expensive in Ontario. Oh. And now we're back at, this one's called Bayview Avenue. And I guess I've seen all of Wards Island now. So I guess I'll just head back over to the ferry. I will be running around a little bit more and hopefully testing out my kite. But that does conclude my video giving a tour of the houses that are on Wards Island and Algonquin Island here on Toronto Island. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment below and let me know what you thought. And thanks for watching.